This is the No More Wasted Days podcast, and we're your hosts, Sarah Kaufman Bradstreet
and Heather PG. Grab your favorite NA drink and listen as we share vulnerable stories so you never feel alone on your alcohol-free journey.
And gain insights from us as we break down our most used tips and strategies that have kept us alcohol-free.
It's time to break free from wasting any more of your days to the drinking, blackout, hangover cycle.
Welcome to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
And I'm Heather.
All right, today we are going to talk all about socializing without alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to let Heather lead this one because I feel like she's actually done more socializing without alcohol than I have. But before we dive into that, we want to invite you guys to the Daymakers community. If you haven't checked it out, you can check it out for 1 week for $7. And with that, you get access to our weekly group coaching calls. So you can hop on one of those, see if you enjoy it. You can check out our private message thread community. And you also get access to a journal and even the 5-day alcohol-free kickstart, which is a group of videos that really set you on your path to an alcohol-free life or an alcohol-free break, whatever you're choosing. So check that out and come say hi to me and Heather.
Yeah, come on, y'all. So, Sarah, let's get some updates about the move and what's been going on in Sarah's world.
Well, we officially have everything out of our house in Oregon. So I'm going back this weekend and I'm going to do the final clean, which actually shouldn't be too bad because we had long-term renters in there and they just recently did their move out clean. So really that should be somewhat easy. I'm actually looking forward to that part. I told Heather, I'm like, I get to go. I'm going to stay the night at my sister's house, get some sister time in, and I can put on my noise canceling headphones while I vacuum the house and listen to some podcasts. But they're doing some repairs on the house, and we had to have like our whole driveway torn out because there's a plumbing issue where I know, right? Are you kidding me? So there was like a plumbing issue where the plumbing line from the house where it connects to the city septic system or the city sewer system, sorry, country living over here with septic, like there was a depression in it. So water was not flowing because it went uphill for a second instead of downhill. So there wasn't a depression. It was like the wrong way. So they're there digging. It's happening as we speak. And we were told it was 10 feet down, which is just crazy. They've dug like 14 feet down. And yesterday, they didn't find the pipe. They've torn apart our whole driveway. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, it's like me and Ryan are doing this job. Like me and Ryan rented an excavator and we're just like, let's just keep digging till we find this pipe. Like, it's just kind of crazy. These people assure us that they've done this before and this is all normal and it's just part of the process. But all I keep seeing is like dollar signs go up and up and up. And yesterday, by the end of the day of updates, my husband looked at me and he was like, let's go have a drink. And he was joking. I know. I was like, what? And he was joking. Okay, everybody, we're not going to go have a drink. Nobody worry. Like we are very in this alcohol-free lifestyle. But I hate it when Ryan says those things because it's one of my biggest fears that he would decide to start drinking again and that I wouldn't be able to maintain without him, which I think I would. And he was never a drinker quite like me, but it was just kind of like, dude, don't do that. That's just adding stress to my stress now. But we're pushing through. And it's like, it's all just, we're feeling all the feelings right now. And it sucks. I'm like on an upward spiral, then I'm on a downward spiral, then I'm going up again. I'm just like, but you know, it's life stuff and it's gonna be over soon. Like as soon as this driveway thing is finished, we're done. The house will be closing and we will no longer have that house to worry about. So I just keep telling myself, push through. Like the only way through it is through it. We will get there. So how's it going with you? What's new in your life?
Well, I'm feeling better from my cold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And trucking along in EMDR. I'm doing sessions every Tuesday, and I think it's really going to be helpful.
Good.
Yeah. And I have not had Sour Patch Kids in a long time. I will share that I was at the store yesterday before I picked up my daughter. And oddly enough, booze and Sour Patch Kids were on the same aisle.
Oh, my gosh. You're like, "Are you kidding me?"
and I just pushed through and, of course, didn't buy any Sour Patch Kids or alcohol, so that's a big
Nice
win.
work. Yeah, it is. That's a big, big win. I think sometimes when we're farther along in our journey, we, like, think those things are just like, "Oh, whatever. I do that every day." It's still a big win every single time.
Yeah, yeah. Before we hop into our sober socializing topic, I do wanna invite y'all to check out the link in the show notes, check out the Daymakers, and set up a time to talk with me about one-on-one coaching. I've got some spots available, and I can help support you in that way. So check out the show notes.
Yeah, check out that one-on-one coaching link and chat with Heather. You get one-on-one
Yeah,
time with Heather, and I can tell you
yeah.
it's good to have one-on-one time with Heather.
Oh, thank you. All right. So we are going to talk about sober socializing. And like Sarah said at the beginning, I have done a lot of this, especially in 2023. And it was a real expander for me coming out, having a baby, post cancer treatment, COVID, huge expander.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of folks feel at the very beginning of their alcohol free journey and at different places and spots in their journey with booze, people feel left out,
Mhm.
FOMO, fear of missing out, and kind of coping with social anxiety.
Yeah. I was so nervous. This was probably my biggest hang up with ditching alcohol. Like, I didn't want to quit drinking because I was so afraid of what other people would think. And now when I say it, I basically roll my eyes because I'm like, so stupid. But it was a huge thing, and I always tell people my friend circle is small. I didn't have room for it to get smaller. I was just kind of like, "Oh my god, if I quit drinking, people are gonna stop inviting me to things. People are going to just not understand. They're gonna ask me a lot of questions that I don't know the answers to." And I really thought that alcohol was the thing that made me fun, which also makes me roll my eyes now because I'm so like, "Oh my god, I gave alcohol so much power." But I have found that it was just time with people. Like, the more time I spend with people, the more I ease into socializing with them, the more I can be myself and joke around. It was never the alcohol, it was the time, and that time gave me the comfort to feel like I could be myself.
Yeah. I remember like one of the reasons I joined the No More Waste Today's community almost 3 years ago was for a social event. It was my daughter's
Mhm.
first birthday. It was at a brewery in our neighborhood. And I was a nervous wreck
Yeah,
and it
I
went
remember that.
fine. hmm Um, it went just fine. We had a good time. We celebrated our daughter. And it was kind of like, okay, it was like building a muscle. Like I had done that. And then
Yeah.
I kind of eased my way into more things. And I did have the feeling left out, like if I didn't get invited to pool parties or what have you.
Mhm.
And I did have a little bit of FOMO, and I most certainly have social anxiety.
Yeah. I definitely had the feeling of FOMO. I almost have it more now because I do feel like I have certain friends who have really stopped reaching out. And I tell myself, like, oh, it's because of a number of reasons. Like, I moved. It's hard to keep a friendship going as an adult when somebody moves 3 hours from you.
Yeah.
But there are people that I'm like, "Oh, I kinda thought we were more than drinking buddies, but I guess we're probably not." It's also really hard because a lot of the people I'm friends with have kids. And when you
Mhm.
have kids, especially the age mine are, like, I'm running them so many different places because they need to have a social life, but they can't drive yet. I can't wait for that day to come. I know I say that and it'll be stressful and all those things, but it's just like, oh, I can't wait for them to just be in more control of their social life. So it's like my free time is really devoted to my kids. And I know that's where a lot of my friends are, but I definitely have moments where I think, I wonder if that person doesn't really reach out anymore because I don't drink. And that
Yeah.
was maybe all we had in common. But I do remind myself if that's the deal, then that's on them.
Yeah. What I've really learned, and I talk about this in our group a lot, is I would rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies.
Yeah.
So I've got my 4 to 5 quarters, and those relationships have deepened so much without booze.
Hmm. Yes, I totally agree with that. I saw Daniel Patterson give that comparison on TikTok. and I thought it was so good. I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, that is exactly where I was." I mean, that's always been the person I've been. I've always been like, I'd rather have my close group of friends than a whole huge, like, sorority sister thing. That was never me. Like,
Yeah.
that seems really stressful to have that many friends. I am not gonna lie. I would rather
Yeah.
keep up with my 4 quarters. I love that analogy.
Yeah. So, as we all know, like the societal norms and expectations about consuming alcohol is just, to me at this point, it kind of makes me nauseous, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest, because
Mhm.
it's the most socially acceptable drug in the world.
Yeah.
And I know it's controversial that alcohol is a drug, but it is.
It totally is, everybody. I'm just gonna agree with Heather on that 100%.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be drugs and alcohol, it's drugs.
Yep. And I've noticed, as y'all can tell from my accent, I'm from the South, born and raised. And I have heard the what I think are such odd social events that have alcohol. There was a baby born in the city we used to live in, and they had a sip and see. So
Oh my gosh, I've heard of those.
you went to see the baby and you sipped on champagne.
I would have been that mom.
Oh yeah, no judgment at all.
Oh,
I
yeah, I
just
know. I try to not have judgment, but now once you're on the outside, you are like, "What? Go see the
yeah,
baby. Go be a
yeah. I mean,
helpful friend."
we had our daughter's first birthday party at a brewery, so no
Yeah.
judgment.
We had a birthday party at a indoor play structure for my kids, and that indoor play structure was my favorite one to go to because they served beer and wine. So
Mm,
while your kids played, you could drink. And I definitely would take my kids and I'd be like, "Well, I'm going to sit at a table, bring my notebook, do some work, and I'm going to have a beer or two while my kids play." And it was like, I was doing the drinking timing of like, okay, I bet if I have 2 beers, but my kids play for this many hours, then it's totally fine. We can drive home. It's all good. It is the weirdest thing. And at that birthday party, like, they were kinda like, "All right, your time's kinda done with the party room. We're open till this time, so feel free to stay." Me and Ryan started being like, "Hey, everybody come to our house now. The kids' birthday party is going to move to our house so everybody can keep drinking and having fun." And it's just like, and luckily, the kids were having fun. The kids were having a great time. But I look at it now and I'm like, how ridiculous that the birthday party really revolved around alcohol, and it really always did, my kids' birthday parties until I quit drinking, and I was kinda like, "No, there's not gonna be any booze at the birthday party. My kids are not 21, in case you noticed." Like,
yeah,
it is the strangest thing. How many birthday parties have you been to where alcohol has been served for kids?
a lot,
I know,
a
and I
lot.
and the play places too, that's becoming a very normal thing to serve alcohol at the play place for the
Yep.
kids.
We went
Yeah,
to one last February,
yeah,
and they
and
had
part of me
beer
is
and
like,
wine.
more power to the owners. They're making good money, but it's also like, how strange to have alcohol served to parents that are going to have to drive home. Who's getting all
Mhm.
the toddlers home? Who's getting all that safe
Right.
cargo? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's,
So
I could go
so
on and on and on.
me too, Sarah, me too. So so we talked about, societal norms and how we felt. So now we're gonna move on to some practical strategies. And what I have found to be really helpful is finding alternative communities, like the Daymakers community with No More Wasted Days. Me and one of my one-on-one clients were talking about this last week, actually, of like one day, maybe next year, having like a retreat,
Mhm. Oh,
um,
yeah.
where
That
we
would be
could come,
so cool.
all over the world. We could meet at one place and just see each other in real life. And we've talked about this before a lot, actually, on episode 14, Managing Boredom in Your Alcohol Free Life. So go
Mhm.
check that out. But, sober meetup, I mean, it really is endless. Like if you just Google sober meetups, you could just lurk.
Yeah, and you don't have to go to them. That's always my thing. You can lurk and you can know that they are there. I know that there's an AA meeting at our public library down the road from me at 7:30 PM on Fridays. Like, am I going? No, not at this point, but I know it's there. I know that there's a recovery community that's starting to host all these different events in a town 30 minutes away from me. Am I going yet? No. But do I know? Yes. And I think there's
Yeah.
power in just knowing and starting to just go, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go do that thing. And I
Yeah.
actually have a little challenge for myself this year to make some damn friends, like some in real life friends, because I love my Daymakers so, so much. I love my online sober community, like all the sober content creators. I feel like those are my people, but I do know there's power in having some real life friends that I know I can reach out to. And I know sober people in our small town we live in. I actually in my husband's real estate agent that he works with agency, real estate business, real I don't know, it's so weird the real estate thing. But in the real estate office that he is a part of, there are, I think everybody in that community is basically sober. If they're not, alcohol is not a thing. Like their parties never revolve around alcohol. And I know two of the people are completely sober, abstain from alcohol. And I think that's so badass because
Me
I
too.
know people who don't drink already. Like I can call up Cheryl and say, let's go coffee. And I don't have
Yeah.
to ever worry that she's gonna be like, "Wanna turn it into a margarita fest now?" Because she's not.
Right.
So, it is but I am trying to figure out how do I start doing finding more people, so I'm looking at the gym that my husband's a part of, and I think I'm gonna start doing a crazy 5 a.m. workout class there. Because how do you meet other crazy people that work out early like you? You go to a class where
Right.
other people are doing it.
They've built
I'm
it and you shall go.
Yes, exactly. So I'm trying to tell myself like I'm going to do it. And I mentioned in I think it was just last week's episode, the managing boredom one, that I'm going to do a sober retreat with your sober pal. Your sober pal. You can look her up on TikTok and on Instagram, but she hosts adventure retreats. I'm not sure if they're just for women or if they're co-ed. I know she does some co-ed local hikes near her in California. But people host sober retreats. Like once you start looking at one, the algorithm's going to know and they'll start going, oh, there's this one in Bali. There's this one in Mexico. I chose one in Tahoe because I don't want to deal with a passport. I
Yeah.
think I need to renew mine right now. And I was like, that's too much.
That's awesome. I think some other strategies that have been helpful for me is visualize before you socialize. I think we've talked
Hmm.
about that also on other episodes. Just play the tape or the movie all the way in the best possible scenario and in the worst case.
Yeah. Choose which one you like and be as specific as possible. I know we've talked about visualization before, but if it helps, write it down and really see yourself doing it because then your brain starts to think like, "Oh, I've done this. This is totally fine. This is not a weird thing." One thing that one person says in the Daymakers all the time and on calls, she says, "Nobody cares what's in your cup." And she's from the
That's
South
true.
too. I wish I could do her accent. But she's always going, "Nobody cares what's in your cup, everybody. Nobody's asking. So stop feeling weird about it. Walk around with your mocktail or your club soda and lime, and nobody's going to question it." And that's a
Right.
strategy that gets me through a lot. Do not be a dumbass like me and carry a protein shaker bottle filled with water at a party. That made me feel like the most awkward person in the room. The one time I made that choice, I was like, Sarah, never again. Bring something where people clearly can't tell what's in your cup or it matches everybody else's cup, but nobody cares what's in your cup. I'm sure nobody even cared that water was in my protein shaker cup. It just
No,
made me feel awkward AF.
I can see that. I don't think they cared though.
No, I don't think they did. I think it was all in my head as I was like, oh my God, you're just holding your stupid shaker.
Before we get on to our last topic, I want to invite you again to check the link in the show notes about the Daymakers one on one coaching with me. Check it out.
Yeah, don't forget to go check those show notes. And I put some other links in there too for mentioning episodes. I try to get those in there. So if you're like, which one should I go listen to after this? The link is in the show notes. So go check those out. All right, let's keep the tips going for people socializing without alcohol.
So, new hobbies. This is so key. You can meet people, you can activate your creativity, which is your right hemisphere of your brain, takes you out of the anxiety state. Sarah, what are some new hobbies that you've done lately?
So this is not a new hobby for me, but one that I brought back into my life after I quit drinking is being part of a community choir. And this is something I've done since I was in college. But when I first moved to the Pacific Northwest from Kansas a long time ago, I joined a community choir and I loved it. And I would sing once a week and it kept me in my craft that I love so much of singing. And I slowly phased it out because drinking got in the way. Because our concerts would be on the weekends and I would drink a lot before our dress rehearsals and be super hungover at the dress rehearsals. Friends would be inviting me to go to bars and I'd be saying, "Oh no, I got a choir concert." And it totally made it finally, so I said, "I'm not gonna do this anymore." So I quit that, and I finally brought it back into my life when we moved. I was like me and my husband went to music in the park, and we were watching somebody, and I looked at my husband, I said, "You know what I need to do? I need a band. I need to be the lead singer in a band." And I, like, went on this little, like, "How do I do this? How am I gonna do this?" And somehow I started talking to a random guy at a nursery, and he was like, "Okay, I don't have a way for you to be in a band." Like, somehow this is so how focused I was on it. I was talking about it everywhere I'd go, right? And he's like, "But I know this guy, he has this community choir, and it's right here." And I was like, "Right here in our little small town?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, right here." And the guy, he took down my number, and then, like, 3 days later, I got a call from the conductor, and it was one of the best things. It's like the universe knew I needed music back in my life, and I joined this community choir, and we are pretty damn good for a community choir. I'm not gonna lie. And the conductor's amazing. It's such a fun group of people. I would have never done it as a drinker because rehearsals are at 6:30 PM on Tuesdays when I would have been drinking. And,
Right.
rehearsal weekends and concert weekends consume a lot of time too. That just wouldn't have worked for me. I have just
Yeah.
loved ringing, and we start up again next week, so I'm just like, "Yes, back to my choir." I love it so much.
You'll have to post a reel of y'all singing on
Yeah.
Instagram. I'd love to hear it.
Our last one, I got COVID right before the concert, so I couldn't perform, and I cried. So
Oh,
I was like, "Oh my god, I worked so hard," and I had a spoken word solo. I was so like, "Yes, I've got a solo." We sang in Seattle, and then I was like, "I have COVID."
that stinks.
Not this time.
S- no. So there's some other things that y'all can do, like outdoor activities. Some friends of mine went geode hunting a
Oh,
couple weeks
yeah.
ago, and that sounds really cool. Like creative pursuits, painting, drawing. Y'all know I'd be loving some diamond dot painting, photography, like do it yourself crafts, projects at home. Like there's tons of stuff to do without spending any money, like fitness, such as pickleball. I want to try that this summer
We have
or
friends that
spring.
wanna do it, and he's so funny. The friend that wants us to do it with him, he's very competitive. And I'm like, "Oh, Lord, I'm gonna be pickleballing with my husband who's competitive and Kyle who's competitive." And I was like, "I really hope his wife is just, like, not so competitive so it could actually be fun." And I've already told him, I was like, "You guys, you know that sports with balls, not my thing. So you gotta be friendly on the court."
Yeah. And there's so many things on YouTube that you could check out, like 90s hip hop dances. You get in a brief dance. And I mean, that could be while you were having a craving.
Mhm.
You could hear good music, like some throwback jams, like Boom, I Got Your Boyfriend. I used to cheer to that song. Random,
Oh, I love that.
but
I love that you were a cheerleader. This
I
puts
was.
you in a whole new light for me.
Mhm. I need to post my cheerleading uniform on Instagram
Yes.
and tag you.
Yes, you do.
So, there's so many things you could do. Game nights, we've done this a couple times with other friends and just ourselves, like Cards Against Humanity.
Mhm.
And y'all, it's actually fun without booze.
Yeah, you know what? Games are actually more fun without booze, I found out. That's something I
Yeah.
started doing again after I quit drinking. And the best part is the words on the cards aren't moving because when I
Yeah.
would play Cards Against Humanity, there were times when I couldn't read the card and I would have to really stop and be like, "Okay, you got this." And I'd be like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god, I'm so drunk." I don't have that
And it
moment now.
yeah, we laughed a lot, and we were actually better at coming up with the creative side of Cards Against Humanity.
Mhm.
So, those are definitely some things that y'all could do. There's like workshops online, in person, online classes, community service. I mean, there are so many things that you could do. We joined a Universalist Unitarian church when we moved here, and now I am the chair of the Social Justice Committee.
Oh my gosh, Heather,
So,
that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. So there's so many things that you can do, and we're having like a trans pride event in April, so we'll be outside repping and supporting the LGBTQ plus community. So there's
Love
so
that.
many things to do.
And I think what people need to remember is like take the hobbies that you're starting to build and then go on the internet and start searching up those hobbies and find other people that are doing them and
Yeah,
go to one of their things. Go check it out and use the 15-minute rule. You are allowed to go. If you find a community service, you're allowed to go check it out. And if you don't like it, you never have to go back again. You can
right.
just be like, oh, that wasn't for me, or try out a Unitarian church. And if it's not for you, never go back again. It's
Yeah.
okay. But put
Ours has
yourself
a
out there.
Zoom component, so you could like lurk and see if you like it via Zoom,
Oh, I
before you
like
ever
that.
go.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's just so many options. So many options. You could join like local Facebook communities and lurk, see what's
Hmm.
going on in your area.
Yeah, I do that. I kind of have ones in the different cities and I'll kind of go, oh, okay. And as I've started to learn the area more and more, I'm like, oh, I can do this, or we go check out this. And I'm learning like one small town has so many different music options, live music options to go listen to. So I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I got to remember that. And even just thinking like I've gotten so into our chickens and ducks since we've moved. And I'm like, okay, that's like a solo hobby, right? No, you guys, 4-H is a thing. And I've looked at it for my
Yeah.
kids. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they could." My kids are so into our chickens, it's ridiculous. It's hilarious, ridiculous, it's all the things. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, our kids could, like, raise a little chicken and bring it to the fair," and it's just and you can meet people by doing those things. So don't be afraid and put yourself out there. It's the only way to go make friends. I'm giving this advice to myself right now. But
Yeah.
and then the next step is kind of meeting those people outside of the activity you're doing if that's something you're comfortable with. How do you do that? Have you been successful at that?
Yes. So I'm like, my wife always jokes that I'm like a natural networker.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to just email or text somebody and be like, hey. So I've met some people, some new friends that Piper will likely go to school with their kids.
Mhm.
And I created my own mom's Facebook group. So I've made some friends
Nice.
that way, made some friends through church. And my new hobby is the Cricut Joy.
Okay.
I
Is
have
this
one
like
that,
the thing that cuts out shapes and then you can make them
yes,
into stickers or shirt decals?
yes. Actually, one of my very best friends that I met in the Daymakers community gifted it to me last year.
Nice.
And I made a new friend, and she's coming over Saturday morning, bringing all her stuff, all of my stuff, and we're going to craft it out.
Oh, that sounds fun. I used to do that back in the day when my kids were very little or before I had kids too. Like when we prepared for my wedding, it was all I was having little craft weekends every weekend. Everybody come over, we're going to make these cool fans. Everybody come over, we're going to make these
Yeah.
cool little satchels full of M&Ms.
And thanks to you, Sarah, when you talked about knitting your doilies in one of the most recent episodes, my friend who's also sober is coming Saturday afternoon, and she's bringing me materials and going to help me learn to knit.
Oh, nice. You can start a little stitch and bitch. Those are the best.
I may have to reach out for tips.
I'm like, that's something I did when I moved to Oregon because I had moved from Kansas and I was like, I got to make friends. And I found it on Craigslist, of all places, found my Stitch and Bitch crew. And we were a group of young people that would meet at different coffee shops in the Portland area and we just stitch away. We were
I
even
love it.
featured in a very well known book in the stitching community. I know. Whenever I look, I'm like, oh my God, that was us. It's
You're a
like no direct
celebrity.
quote or anything, but I was like, "That's so cool." And those are I mean, that's how I made friends when I moved, so it's kind of like, "Okay, I gotta do that stuff again." One thing I've started doing is when I meet somebody and I connect, I use the power of Facebook. Yes, I'm on Facebook because I am old, And I go friend that person and I'm like, okay, now we're connected. I know I can hop into their messages and say, hey, where's the blah, blah, blah? How do I find this? Or do you want to come over and do this? So
Yeah.
that's my one thing that I'm bad at. I have to get better at putting myself out there and saying, do you want to come over and do this? Like, hey, we're burning our burn pile. Want to come hang out with us? I forget that people might think that that's fun.
Yeah. So I want to emphasize the importance of taking care of yourself, your mental and physical health when you first quit drinking, and even further on in your journey. Prioritize your rest, go get a massage, journal, go to your doctor's appointments, get a
Hmm.
therapist. You can have me as a life coach. So get in the Daymakers community. Just take really good care of yourself.
Yeah. We talk about self care a lot in the Daymakers community and remind people that it's not just bubble baths and massage, which is great, but it is all those things like your affirmations, your gratitudes, making doctor's appointments. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. I'm so terrible at that. And I have all of mine booked now, and I'm so proud of
Yeah.
myself. I'm
Proud of
like,
you
go
too.
me. It's like, it's a hard thing when you're an adult. I take care of my kids and then I forget about me. So do those things, take care of yourself, and it makes you feel better about yourself so you're ready to go socialize with people.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I think we're coming to the end of our episode here with that topic, but we definitely want to remind you to check out the Daymakers, check out one on one coaching with Heather, and please go rate and review the podcast. And wherever you listen to it from, be sure to follow so you get notified when new episodes come out. All of those little things help our podcast just get pushed out there so more people can find us. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do. And we are in the top 5% of the podcast. And the more that you rate and give reviews, the more visible we are to help others.
Yep. So thanks for those that have already rated. And if you haven't yet, just go do it. It takes about 5 seconds.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We hope you enjoyed this episode on socializing sober, and we will be in your ear next week.
All right. See you later.
All right. Bye, y'all.